Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app, O'Connor and Company.
8:07 on O'Connor and Company. It's our big fourth hour here on our morning extravaganza. Thanks for joining us. Coming up in 30 minutes, we're going to speak with Jim Jordan, chairman of the Judiciary Committee. And when I say we, I mean me, Larry O'Connor, and she, Cassie Smedile. Good morning, Cassie. It's been a delight all morning.
Good morning. I'm just in the middle of the morning dance.
I know. We do love our Sir Duke here, Stevie Wonder. It's an FCC regulation. A lot of people don't know that. You got to play Stevie Wonder at 8 a.m. Chairman Brendan Carr of the FCC knows that better than anyone. He joins us now. See, we're in compliance, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, you're all good. So good to be with you again.
Listen, a lot of things I want to get to, but first, because of the disaster in Texas with the flash flooding and the horrible human tragedy, and I think a lot of us take for granted that the phone's going to be there, whether it's a mobile phone or a landline phone, when you need it most. Can you give us an update on how our communications infrastructure functioned during this disaster for first responders and for victims?
Yeah, thanks so much. Great to be with you. I mean, look, first of all, our hearts go out to the families that are just hearing the most awful news possible out there in Texas. And obviously, you know, I want to express my thanks to the U.S. Coast Guard, to Secretary Noem. I mean, obviously there's that great story now of Scott Ruskin, the Coast Guard swimmer who was on his very first mission ever and, you know, saved so many kids and just a hero. You know, from the FCC perspective, we're always monitoring communications issues in natural disasters. We didn't see any significant widespread disruption from this one. Obviously, there were some issues here and there, and we're continuing to look at that. But we do a lot to make sure we have our emergency alert system that's up and running so we can get these alerts out. We actually just held a hurricane resiliency roundtable at the FCC yesterday to make sure that we're ready for disasters like these.
That's great to hear, and thank you for giving us an update on that. Now, I know late last week you delivered a speech in Sioux Falls, South Dakota about what you're calling the Build America agenda, and it has to do with finally getting a high-speed infrastructure built in this country. I feel like I've been hearing this since 2010. Barack Obama was talking about this. Joe Biden, apparently, I remember in one of his giant spending bills, unleashed a huge amount of billions of dollars. But we still have huge gaps in high-speed internet in this country, in rural areas in particular. Why is that? The money has been there. Have they just been focusing on outdated technology?
Well, you're right. You'll probably recall back a year or two ago, President Biden and Vice President Harris were put in charge of a $42 billion internet infrastructure initiative. It was their signature effort to get millions and millions of Americans connected to the internet, including in rural communities. And the upshot of that was after 1,000+ days, they had 0 people connected. There wasn't a single shovel's worth of dirt that was even turned. And what our Build America agenda does is it looks to turn that around. And all of this is thanks to President Trump. You know, he's come in and said that, you know, we are going to end business as usual. We're finally going to get construction projects going. And the one big beautiful bill that passed just last week gives a real shot in the arm to this effort because it allows the FCC to use airwaves spectrum to bring people across the digital divide as well. So I'm really excited about this agenda that's, you know, picks up on themes across the Trump administration.
By the way, I believe our newly elected Congresswoman, April McClain Delaney here in Maryland, she was the point person there for the administration as well on that failed mission to finally get this done. Can you shed some light? I mean, I read somewhere that a lot of these businesses that are being charged with building this infrastructure, they're still dealing with like copper wire technology that is sort of outdated for high-speed internet. Is that right?
Yeah, there's a lot that's going on. So what our Build America agenda does is finally sort of cut through a lot of this red tape. So one is we've actually had rules on the books at the FCC that requires providers to keep investing and maintaining billions of dollars into old copper line networks, even when they want to move that capital over to new high-speed networks, including fiber. And so we're giving them permission for the first time to do that much more swiftly and efficiently. That's a big piece of it. Another piece is the space economy. You know, we're getting all sorts of new services delivered directly from satellites, in-home broadband delivered at high speeds from space. There's a new technology called direct-to-cell, which lets your cell phone connect directly to a satellite, so skipping the terrestrial cell tower. So there's a lot of hope out there, but the real key is we have to get the government out of the way in terms of all the, red tape that's been slowing down these bills up to now.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask is what is an ideal or a realistic timeline for when this can get done? Because like Larry said, we've been hearing about this for the better part of a decade. Now, because of the big, beautiful bill, you said you've got kind of what you need to get going. What do you see as a timeline for when people can really expect to see this in their communities?
Yeah, we're moving pretty quickly. So one thing that's taking place is with respect to that $42 billion program that we spoke about earlier, Commerce Secretary Lutnick has been doing great work reorienting that program. Over the next month or so, that program is going to be completely reset. And then soon after that, providers should be able to start building pursuant to that. So you'll see some new builds going under that program thanks to Secretary Lutnick pretty soon here. At the FCC, we're moving quickly already to try to free up these airways, which is, again, a complement to the wired infrastructure, to have wireless infrastructure. And we're also moving on a deregulatory schedule right now. In fact, this month we're voting to delete a bunch of rules and regulations that have been on our books for too long, including, believe it or not, rules that regulate telegraph service and the closure of telephone booths. So, we have all these, pages in our Code of Federal Regulations that ultimately just slow things down. So we're getting rid of that as well.
That's great to hear. I don't know if you saw this. Ezra Klein, of all people, he's a liberal Democrat, big government proponent. He used to be a columnist at the Washington Post. Now he's at the New York Times. He wrote a book about the inefficiencies in the federal government. He had an interview with Jon Stewart where he was sort of walking through the entire process that you have to go through the Build Back Better plan that Biden promoted. To get a contract to be able to build this broadband access for rural and underserved communities. And Jon Stewart was left speechless. He could not believe the hurdles and the hoops and the morass and the ridiculous regulations just to get one of these contracts done. Have you been able to focus on, I guess what I'm asking is, will you make Ezra Klein happy, Commissioner Carr?
Well, we aim to make everybody happy, but I think so, and he's exactly right. When you look at these programs that the Democrats stood up, again, good, big, lofty goal, ending the digital divide, but it foundered on the fact that they added all of these progressive policy goals to it. So you had rate regulation, you had DEI requirements, you had green requirements, so you had to have EV bulldozers or something to do this type of construction work. It just made no sense at all, and so they lost the forest for the trees, and we're doing the exact opposite. We're just focusing on quickly, efficiently trying to connect people. We're getting rid of all these DEI obligations, and that's the right way to finally bridge the digital divide in this country. And I'm optimistic that we're going to get the job done with President Trump and the one big beautiful bill. Just
so people understand, because they're going to hear you say DEI and they're going to say, what? That has to do with if you're a company and you're trying to participate in actually fixing some of our issues here and helping to provide internet and broadband and high speed access to these areas. You've got to fill out form after form after form to make sure that you've got the right diversity hires and that your ownership is racially appropriate. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, when you're bidding for these contracts that were set up during the Biden administration, you would get points for how diverse your workforce would be. You would get points for hiring people that were what they describe as justice impacted individuals, which I guess is formerly incarcerated or other people. And so they didn't focus on how do we get the most qualified people, the people that can get this job done right now. They were using it as a program to advance issues that had nothing to do with just getting families across the digital divide.
Unbelievable. Well, listen, listen, whenever there is a conservative who is sort of steering the FCC, we always know that the human tragedy is right around the corner. Your predecessor, Ajit Pai, of course, is responsible, I believe, for the murder of tens of millions because of net neutrality. So we're holding our breath and hoping that you're able to navigate these rough waters ahead, Brenda Carr.
Yeah, you're exactly right. There's a lot of shots that are taken at officials that are running these agencies. But the good news is if you died from net neutrality, you do not have to worry about dying from the one big beautiful bill. So that's a good thing.
Exactly. Thank God. There is some relief. Thank you, Brenda Carr. Great talking with you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate it.
All right. Good to be with you guys. Appreciate it. Thanks.
It is 8:15.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
The New York mayor's race is going to be a topic of discussion all year long until Election Day. And I mean, you know how Cassie Smedile, The Sopranos have seen a resurgence. A new generation of people are watching The Sopranos. Did you watch it in real time, or are you watching it now, or are you not
I
a
didn't.
mafia
My
type?
husband is watching it now, rewatching it now, so I'm kind of getting into it.
It's a great series, and then there's one famous episode where these Italian American, good-hearted American murdering mobsters, they're very protective of Columbus Day. The Italians like Columbus Day. He's an Italian hero, even though he sailed for the Spanish. I never quite understood that. Splitting hairs. Anyway, they love their Columbus Day, and you don't want to be on the wrong side of the Italian American community there in New York, right?
True.
So Zoran Mamdani, the commie Mamdani there, has some old social media posts that are coming back to haunt him, or are they? Maybe this is a badge of honor at this point in New York. But in the height of the Black Lives Matter riots and Summer of Love in June of 2020, he took a photograph of himself flipping the bird, as it were, to a statue of Christopher Columbus, and the caption said, "Take it down." In other words, he wants to rip down statues of Christopher Columbus. Usually that would sort of end your political career in New York. But let's face it, the racial and ethnic demographic in the fair city has changed over the years. So who knows? Maybe this is a badge of honor or something that he is against Christopher Columbus. But I would think that might be a political handicap.
You would think. I also, at this point it seems like, he's gotten all the Jewish people against him. He's gotten all the people who support police officers against him. Maybe he'll lose by the coalition of people against him. But also, as I'm sure you saw, when he was getting into, where did he go? Colombia. He checked the boxes for African American and Asian. His name ends in a vowel. I'm shocked he didn't check the box for Italian. There was a missed opportunity here.
Hey, Zamdani. Hey. Paisan, Zamdani.
Yeah.
You're right. He checked both Asian and... So now what's interesting here is I'm saying, well, what's wrong? He is African American. He's from Uganda. Okay, he is ethnically Indian, which I guess qualifies under Asian. But the box on the form for Columbia University does not say African American. It specifically says Black/African American. Right. Everyone in America knows, and we used to joke about how Elon Musk is our favorite African American, right? But everybody in America knows legitimately that African American was this, newly invented, Jesse Jackson approved, politically correct way of saying black, because they wanted to be defined by their nation of origin or their continent of origin and their ethnicity, not by purely the color of their skin. You call somebody black, it's like reducing them to pigment. And so instead, I guess their thought process was, no, I am who, based on where I'm from, not the color of my skin. Okay, whatever. It doesn't matter. We know what African American means. It means black. This guy is not black. So I can't believe black New Yorkers are going to be down with that. It's like Elizabeth Warren all over again.
Exactly. He is Elizabeth Warren 2.0. But again, he's just I love how the internet is coming back to maybe not haunt him, but haunt him. If you were outraged by that, you have to be outraged by this, right?
Well, it's funny. Eric Adams, who is black, by the way, and the current mayor, he's still running as an independent, and they put out a photo of him, and the social media headline was, "Vote for the real black guy." And he came out again. He said, African-American identity is not a checkbox of convenience. He said it's a history, a struggle, and a lived experience for someone to exploit that for personal gain is deeply offensive. By the way, Barack Obama also referred to himself as African. And again, his father was from Africa, but he hardly lived the African-American historical experience, let's just say. Neither did Kamala Harris, for that matter, whose father was Jamaican and mother was Indian. It's amazing how the Democrats embrace all these African-Americans who aren't really, traditionally black Americans, but that's a whole other story, I suppose. Not my party and not my racial identity, so it's not for me to say. The question is, does he get away with it? And do they actually overlook all of that for the excitement of having a 33-year-old communist running the biggest city in America?
Oh, the questions to be asked. I, too, remember when the kid running for student council promised free pizza and no uniforms every day. And you know what happened? He got elected,
yes,
and we had to pay for the pizza, and we still had to wear our uniforms. So Just take that as your warning sign that this is what this sounds like. But New Yorkers are, gosh, those Gen Z New Yorkers who are all paying for their $7 lattes on payment plans.
Yeah.
It's a different world for them, I guess.
Yeah, you're right. And it's a different Democrat Party run by the likes of AOC. And I mean, listen, this is Bernie Sanders' party. He has refashioned it in his political ideology and economic perspective, such as it is. They do embrace socialism, that's for sure. And you say his social media posts are coming back to haunt him, but I think, as you suggested, I don't think they are. The fact of the matter is, every single one of he has said in his social media posts, he's quoted Karl Marx favorably, and he has said outrageous stuff there, and he hasn't deleted one of them. The fact that every single one of these social media posts still exists tells you something about where he is politically right now in that town.
Yeah, I can't figure it out because people in New York are complaining about basic stuff, about trash, about illegal immigrants taking over their hotels and the crime, all of the things. They don't say that it's not going very well. And yet they are still moving further and further to the left. It's like your buddies out in California. I don't get it, Larry.
By the way, he got a 2140 on his SAT out of 2400, which is on the lower end of median scores for students admitted to Columbia, but it is on the higher end of students who identify as Black or African American. So it looks like checking that box helped him gain admittance. We can make a solid case against Zohran Mamdani, and the media seems to be doing a good job of it. The problem is there are three other candidates right now on the ballot: Eric Adams, the incumbent, Curtis Sliwa, the Republican, and Andrew Cuomo, who hasn't had a lot to say, is still on the ballot. He hasn't decided whether he's going to pull himself out of the race or not after the humiliating loss in the Democrat primary. But the fact of the matter is, until any one of those three candidates can make a good case against this guy, he will be the next mayor of New York. God help us all. Coming up, Mr. Chairman of the Judiciary Committee. He's Jim Jordan, and he's next.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's 8:36. It's O'Connor and Company. I'm Larry O'Connor. Cassie Smedile with us this morning, longtime D.C. stalwart, Republican spokesperson Cassie Smedile. Good to have you, Cassie, always.
Good morning. Great to be with you, Larry. Thanks for having me back.
And joining us right now is one of our faves on Capitol Hill. He's the chairman of the Judiciary Committee from the great state of Ohio. He is Jim Jordan. And Congressman Jordan, congratulations on passing that reconciliation package.
Yeah, the big, beautiful bill is now law. Thank you. It's good to be with you guys. Hope you had a good 4th of July weekend.
We did, thank you. It can't be overstated, I think, what a miracle your friend and former colleague on the Judiciary Committee, Mike Johnson, has been able to pull up. They keep saying that he's not going to be able to get it done, but he does seem to get it done every time. Yeah,
because Mike's a good man, and he's got a work ethic that is tremendous. And so when you have those qualities, and of course you have President Trump in the White House,
that helps.
Who worked tremendously on helping some people who were taking a little while to get there, but in the end we got it done. This bill, and I was home last weekend, and my wife and I were at the restaurant on Saturday night, and people walked up to me saying, "Thanks for passing the big beautiful bill. Thanks for the tax cuts." People appreciate that it's the biggest tax cut in American history. People appreciate it's the largest investment in border security in American history. People appreciate the work requirements for able-bodied people who were getting your tax money. They're now going to have to work, which is good for them. It's good for the economy. It's fair to taxpayers. And I think people appreciate the school choice component that's now part of our tax code. So in the end, I thought it was a good bill.
Well, and you said it's good to have President Trump in the White House, but as you know, there were some pretty powerful forces that were trying to keep him out of the White House. And we're now learning through FBI revelations under the new director, Kash Patel, that there was legitimate election interference attempted by China. The FBI knew about it, and apparently they either concealed it from Director Christopher Wray at the time to protect his testimony to your committee in the House of Representatives, or Christopher Wray knew about it, but they tried to hide the paper trail. Either way, it's another incident of the former FBI director caught in what generously is misinformation, if not outright lying to your committee.
Yeah, I mean, and frankly, should it surprise us when you think about this is the FBI that put together the memorandum in the Richmond field office that said if you're a pro-life Catholic, you're an extremist and you should be investigated. This is the FBI, part of the Justice Department, part of Merrick Garland's memorandum that said parents at school board meetings need to be investigated. And this is the FBI who did all that, not to mention the China issue that you just brought up, and still can't tell us who planted the pipe bombs, who leaked the Dobbs opinion, and who put cocaine at the White House. So God bless Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, who are there now, who I think are bringing this agency, this great agency, once great agency, back to where it's supposed to be.
But is there, Congressman, is there anything that you can do from a congressional standpoint, from a subpoena standpoint, to get some more answers on what was going on inside the Justice Department for these cover-ups to be taking place? I mean, it just feels like this was all part of a bigger plan here. And I'm not trying to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but is there something that Congress can do to help get some, so that never happens again?
Yeah, we can continue to do oversight and look into it. But in the end, this is the Justice Department now has this information. We got this issue that came out like a week or so ago. And then, of course, we had the report yesterday where CIA Director Ratcliffe said that Brennan may have misled people as well, because we have testimony when he was in front of the committee a few years ago where he said that, did the CIA use the Steele dossier in any way? And he said, no, we didn't. And now we have people saying, yes, they did. They used it as a way to go to the FISA court and help get that thing. And he knew about it, according to what came out yesterday. And it sure looks like he may have misled us based on what he told Chairman Gowdy. And then, frankly, what he told me and Representative Gates when we deposed Mr. Brennan last Congress relative to the 51 former intel officials misleading the entire country with that crazy letter that said, the Hunter Biden laptop has all the earmarks of a Russian information operation, when in fact the FBI had it, knew it was real, and knew it was legit. So there's a lot to investigate there. But I think right now with us having control of the executive branch, Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, the team over there, I think they're going to handle a lot of this. And then we'll see if we can help that and supplement that in some way going forward.
We're speaking with Chairman Jim Jordan of Ohio, the Judiciary Committee. And Chairman Jordan, there was some discussion over the last 48 hours that there's a lot of pressure on President Trump to entertain the idea of some kind of immigration and or amnesty bill. And that sort of thing, I think, would be passed through your committee, certainly, if it were to happen. What is your position on something like that? Because it certainly seems contrary to the highly effective job that DHS and immigration has done.
No, I think I would not support an amnesty type of legislation. I don't think President Trump will either. And frankly, I do think that we just passed the strongest border security measure. A lot of that came through our committee. We additional resources for 10,000 ICE agents, detention space, detention beds. More money came from the Homeland Security Committee for wall. We put in additional resources for more immigration judges. We want all that system to work better. And right now the border's under control. Anyone can see that. And that's because of President Trump and his team. But going forward, we're not for amnesty. I do think we need to go back to H.R. 2, the bill we passed last Congress, that reformed our asylum law, made sure it was that you couldn't abuse that, as we've seen over the course of the Biden administration, and make it stronger. But as you're doing that, you can look at, I think, this whole legal visa issue. President Trump has talked about that, but no way would we be for any type of amnesty.
Yesterday, we saw a maniac, open fire on an ICE agent in McLean, Texas. We also saw the revelation that there was 11 people involved in an ambush attack. That plus the rhetoric we're seeing out of the mayor of Los Angeles and the governor of California with regard to ICE activities in that state. How high is your concern level right now about the safety of these officers? And perhaps maybe a Democrat could step forward and say, we got to stop this kind of rhetoric.
Yeah, it'd be nice if a Democrat would, and obviously we're concerned. These guys, but it's been the case for law enforcement in general over the last ever since the summer of 2020, and I still remember what was the CNN reporter, I think, standing out in front of a building that was on fire, and the reporter saying, "This is a mostly peaceful protest." You know, that whole mindset that somehow law enforcement was the problem when they weren't. It's the same situation in L.A. A couple of weeks ago, the Democrats were blaming President Trump for the riots because he sent the National Guard in to stop the riots that were already taking place. I mean, it makes no sense what you hear from them. So yeah, we appreciate what these ICE officers are doing and immigration officials are doing, and it's tough. It's just tough being in law enforcement these days. Let's hope this stops. Let's hope more Democrats step forward and say enough of this stuff.
Well, congratulations on your Reds getting to one game over 500. That's exciting.
There we go. It's not the big red machine of the Pete Rose days, but at least they're winning some games, right?
Thanks for joining us, Chairman Jordan.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Take care.
It is 8:44.
WMAL, making sense of the headlines because common sense isn't so common. Download the WMAL app to stream us for free.
You know, the advent of social media in our era here at Cassie Smedile has been deeply concerning for those of us who had teenage daughters, right? You always worry about girls. They get so obsessed with their body image, right, and comparing themselves to their peers and supermodels, and it's dangerous. They go to extraordinary lengths to make themselves, look different than they actually are. It's bad. It's psychologically damaging, Also, apparently, not just damaging for teenage girls, but also for middle-aged Democrats who hold elected office in Congress. I'm speaking, of course, about Hakeem Jeffries, who, let's face it, like most of us of a certain age, you put on a little extra around the midsection, a little spare tire. He's become a little tubby. I don't want to body shame the man, but he has. But he's very self-conscious of it. He posted a picture of himself leaning against a park bench on Instagram, and it is obvious that he photoshopped it or had someone attempt to Photoshop it to warp his midsection. Because you can see the park bench looks like it's like in that movie. What was the Doctor Strange movie? Where everything gets warped and rippled and like CGI'd and stuff.
I take your word for it. It does look like that. As some commenter was like, "What are your benches looking like up there in Brooklyn?"
Yeah, he's just so massively strong that leaning against the bench warped the wood on it. Here, this guy is a dude named John Dorsey, fitness influencer, who sort of broke it down. Listen. We got that?
This is Hakeem Jeffries. He's a Brooklyn congressman, Democrat. I only have one question for him. Sir, what is the objective of editing these photos? Why? He recently posted this one, home sweet home in Brooklyn. Look at the bench. Look at the bench over here. What is he doing this for? It kind of swoops up. Very strange. This one, too, in Virginia, 2024. We look in the background. Everything back there appears to be swooping up, right? Weird. And then I found this one, too. Take a look. Everything's swooping up and out. Hakeem, it's okay to be a short king. You don't have to edit your photos to make
he thinks he's making him look taller. I think it's slenderer, I think, as well. See, he keeps taking pictures in front of park benches or brick walls or fences, things that have like vertical or horizontal lines, so it's really obvious to see what he's doing. He should do it in front of a tree and no one will notice. You know what I mean? Not that I would do anything like that.
I was about to say I didn't know that was the pro tip he needed. But also, I have two thoughts on this. One, yes, get a better Photoshop app or staffer who's helping you do this. But two, I don't know the objective here because he's posting in front of nondescript things. He's like, "Oh, home sweet home," in front of this park bench. It's not like, "Oh, here I was in my district helping my constituents."
Right, look, it's the Eiffel Tower. Yeah, it's like nothing.
It's such an unnecessary photo to begin with.
Hakeem Jeffries is, this is the tip of the iceberg when it comes to his troubles. It's 8:53.